Hello, I welcome you on behalf of AWS Analytics. We are a company dedicated to provide analytical solutions to help our business partners with their data. For those who do not know us, we belong to the SADR Group, with more than 20 years of experience in the business intelligence, analytics, data science, and big data market in more than 32 countries, always accompanying our clients to achieve their objectives through the implementation of solutions with the highest quality standards, endorsed by our highly qualified and certified collaborators to give our clients successful implementations. The content of this webinar has been prepared with dedication for your enjoyment. Therefore, your microphone will remain silenced so that the speakers of this event can have a higher sound quality. If you have any questions, you can write them in the platform chat, and as we progress with the presentation, they will be answered. Make yourself comfortable. We're about to begin.
Thank you, Anna. Great video and great orientation. Really looking forward to the presentation today. My name is Cody Carlson with AWS Analytics, and with me we have a couple of team members that I'd like to go ahead and get you introduced to. Supporting me today, I'll have Gustavo Schattenhofer. He's our Director of AWS Analytics of the North region. He's been with AWS for now a little over 20 years, a real expert in the business, and I'm looking forward to having him on the presentation today. How are you, Gustavo?
How are you, Cody? Thanks for the introduction, and it's great to be here. Good morning to everyone.
Thank you. And then also supporting us today, we'll have Laura Patino. She's our pre-sales engineer, has been working with data and analytics for around 7 years now. Has an MBA in data and analytics, and is a real expert and SME on the subject as well. So thank you for joining, Laura. How are you?
Hi, Cody. Hi, Gus. And thank you all for being here today with us.
Great. No, I'm looking forward to rolling through this with you guys. I guess if we could move to just the next slide. We'll talk a little bit about just AWS Analytics just for a second, what our portfolio is and how it all ties together with AWS. So basically, we cover 3 key areas: business analytics, innovation, and then data analytics. We are a platinum partner of SAP, one of 11 in the world, and also partner with Tableau, Qlik, and Power BI. In terms of other solutions, anything that SAP offers basically from a data perspective, we're one of the top partners in the world, not only from a skill set perspective, but also a subject matter expertise by industry. And the same goes for our experience with AWS, Alteryx, Azure, and even the Google Cloud Platform and Intuity. For more info on any of this type of stuff, we can also, we can chat about it later. But for the purpose of this, we'll be focusing on AWS and how you can leverage it in your business. So today, just some key takeaways for you and what to expect in the presentation and webinar today. A few key things that you'll want to take back with you. Just the experience of what it's like to use the actual solution, the specific use tool ecosystem, the pay-as-you-go model, and how that keeps the total cost of ownership down, and the AWS marketplace. We'll get into detail about all of these things, but now at this point, Gus, I'll turn it over to you so you can educate the audience on a little bit of some trends that are going on with AWS.
Okay, thank you, Cody. So I will try to make a brief introduction about the AWS Analytics Solutions and how we are working with this kind of technologies. So basically, what are some of the actual problems that companies are facing nowadays when we talk about data and how to manage big volumes of information and data, and how to provide meaningful and powerful insights based on that information. Okay, so this is because we are facing nowadays different kind of issues. For example, to have multiple data sources, performance issues is usually something that we are also facing, consuming tons of data, and also something that is very important nowadays is the storage space. So how can we provide value-based solutions with this scenario, or based on this scenario? Currently, the solutions for this kind of problem is based on the 5 Bs of big data. Okay, one of them, or the first one, is the volume of the information. If we see big data as a pyramid, volume is like the baseline of that pyramid. So the volume of data that companies manage skyrocketed around 2012 when they began collecting more than 3 million pieces of data every day. And since then, the volume of that information doubles about every 40 months or so. So one of the important things is the volume of the information. Then the velocity in terms of the or thinking about additional to managing data, the companies needs the information to flow quickly, as close to real time as possible. Is not always possible, but in some cases, yes. So the velocity can be more important than volume because it can give us a bigger competitive advantage against our competitors. Sometimes it's better to have limited data in real time than a lot of data at a low speed. So that's the velocity part. Then the third one is the variety. So a company can obtain data from many different data sources, from in-house devices, different ERPs, smartphones, IoT technology, or nowadays also from social networks. So the importance of these sources of the information varies depending on the nature of the business. But we will have to consider all of them as part of the solution that we need to provide. The fourth V is the veracity, which is in the actual context is equivalent to quality. Okay, it's really important not only having tons of information, tons of data, but also the quality of that. So we have all the data, but we could be missing something. So that's the important thing, to have the data clean and accurate. That's something that we need to focus on. And finally, the V for value, specifically sits at the top of the big data pyramid. In this particular case, we refers to the ability to transform a big volume of information, a tsunami of data, into something that is meaningful for the business. Okay. So how do we cover all this considering the AWS portfolio? With these three layers, basically the data movement, data lake infrastructure, and finally the analytics. In the data movement layer, we will be working with the solutions to acquire that information from the different data sources that we mentioned. Could be, as I told you before, ERPs, IoT devices, or whatever we would like to connect, and move that information, consolidate that data from the different data sources. And then when we are moving to the data lake with the different components that we are including in the AWS architecture, we can create those specific views and clean the data that we have stored there. So once we have all that ready, then we can start thinking about the analytics part and how to read and consume that information in a meaningful way for us to use that data. So this is like an overview of the Amazon Web Services portfolio. Then if we move to the next slide, we can see an analytics reference architecture. So there are like different components. We are obviously not going to show you every one of them at this presentation, but at least for you to know, typically analytics architecture that we can cover and we can take care with you, so you can consider the different parts that you will need to implement depending on the different needs that you may have. So as I mentioned before, you can consume information from different data sources, relational or not relational data. Once you have it there, then is the ingestion layer where we are going to move all that information, then process that information and consolidate it in the enterprise data warehouse, build that data lake, and then at the end, consume that information to the final users. In this specific case, as we mentioned before, we work with different tools like Tableau, SIC, Power BI, ClickView, or different tools that can provide some analytics or dashboards based on that information. Okay, so this is like the referential, the reference architecture that Laura is going to show you a specific use case, and we will get deeper into that based on the information or the case that Laura is going to present. So Laura, we are now good to go.
Okay, thank you for your explanation. Now, the use case we bring today, it's for a company that is our client, and they basically needed to download some information from a web page. This information used to be unstructured and really mass, so they needed a solution that they can consume this information in an easy way. They also needed a cloud solution. So for that, we proposed an AWS architecture and a solution where basically we automated the ETL processes of all that Excels and documents that were published in their website. And after that, this information can be managed, transformed, and at the end to be consumed in order to this customer to focus on their reports, to make good decisions, and not only into treat that data. So I'll just move on to the demo and the solution to show you how we built the solution in AWS. Okay, so the first step was to think where the information should be stored once all these Excels were downloaded. So for that, we proposed Amazon S3. Here, we thought to create different buckets. Basically, these buckets are for raw data, where for parameters controlled, and all these buckets over here are also for store the data that has been processed. If you let me show you, here we also thought in different layers, one that we called silver and one is gold. The silver data is that information that has been processed but is not ready to consume, so that information is stored here. And the gold layer is for that information that is already processed and that we can later consume it, using a BI tool. We also partitioned that information by year, by month, and we used a format that is called Parquet, and that format is what allows us to consume the information at the end. Now that we have decided how we can store how can we store the information, it's time to think how we can download, extract the data, transform it, and later load it here. So for that, we proposed the use of Lambda functions, where basically we created 3 functions here. The first one was for download the information. So here, this code basically shows how you can connect to the website, how you scrub the information. Yeah, you did the algorithm detects the URL and finally downloads the information. So basically, that code over there is for that. The second Lambda function was for processing the data that have been already downloaded. From our experience, we decided to use Python libraries, such as Pandas, AWS Wrangler, and NumPys, and that in order to can understand and organize the data and partition it, all that kind of things. So for that, we decided to use these libraries and this Lambda function over here. And finally, the third function is the one for crawling. So here basically we use some crawlers that will update the data catalog. Crawlers are these functions that can edit your data. So it can add tables, they can add columns in your pre-existing data, and like for organize that, and finally to be uploaded in the data catalog that finally is the place where the information will be consumed. So now that we already have the storage and the Lambda functions, it was necessary to have another process to orchestrate this ETL process. So for that, we decided to use step functions. Step functions is a serverless service from AWS, where basically it shows us graphic console where we can define different steps for our process to be done. So in this case, it is a really easy process that we configure here. So we begin with the start of the process where it tells the different Lambda functions to start. And then the first step is to download information from the website. The second step is to wrangle our data. And finally, we start the glue crawler to index that data in the data catalog. And finally, we have the end. So these step functions are really easy to use. You can also have a code for that. This is a JSON code, but it's way easier to configure that using the graphic console. And finally, after we have orchestrated the process, it is time to use another service to consult, to query the information. So for that, we took advantage of Athena. That is a service that makes easier to use SQL queries. So it doesn't matter if you are an advanced SQL user or if you're only if you only know some stuff about SQL. This makes that easy for you. You just need to parameterize some comms here, and then you just run the query automatically.
So even me, can I use it?
Yeah, you can use it as well. yeah, it does it automatically for you. Let me show you. I have the different tables here. If I just click in preview table, it will run a select from that table. You didn't have to know that the command here was select, even that this is something basic, pretty much everybody knows, but if you don't, it runs that automatically for you. So just doing that, you can have a preview of what kind of information you have in your buckets and in the data lake we just created. Here, another thing that is important to note is that you can query the information directly from S3, but as the information will grow, probably these queries won't be accurate enough. So for that, we suggest that our data source is always the data catalog, because there the information is always updated, it's always treated, and it's always ready to consume. Okay, so finally, after we have these all steps ready, we need a layer to consume the information. So for that, we used Tableau. This is the reports that we created for our customer. I'm not sure if I just told you, but this was for an energy company. So here we have lots of information, but just to sum up for you, in this case, we can analyze information of energy production by technology. So it could be aeolic or solar, and understand through the day and the different hours how that information, how that energy has been produced. as well. So that's what we're seeing here. This is the average power by hour and technology. So again, we just here created some filters, so you can filter the information by year, by technology as well, and so on. Another tab here is the production by company, or by company. So it is common that these energy companies have different conglomerates, so you can analyze information by every subsidiary that belongs to that company. So that's the information we're seeing over here. So we can compare the production by year and by every single hour. Here we are comparing the technology for different zones as well. So there we can understand, in this particular case, what are the places that has the highest consumption rather than others. And I won't go much into detail to this information, but just I wanted to show you how you can easily consume mass information that at the beginning was really difficult to understand, to process, and how with those simple steps that I just showed you using AWS, you can easily have these kinds of reports that are way easier to understand. So I just go back to our presentation, and I will show you the architecture we used for this specific case. So in this part over here, we have our data source that, as I've been telling you, it was a website. So that information is downloaded using a Lambda function. Also, we triggered those downloads using CloudWatch. So that's how we program the events. Once the information is downloaded, we save it in one bucket in S3. And here is the stage of raw data. Now that raw data goes through the next step functions for data wrangling. And after that information is processed, we save it in our silver layer, again in a bucket in S3. After that, we also process the information for using the star crawlers, save it in our gold layer using a bucket in S3. Our data catalog is updated. Finally, we use some queries using Athena, consulting the information from the Glue catalog. And finally, using an EC2 instance, we can consume the information using Tableau. So pretty much this was the architecture. It's not very complicated, but it for sure make our customers' life easier. So just to sum up, as Cody was telling you at the beginning, with AWS experience for treating the data, creating data lakes or data warehouses, it is very easy. You can use a specific tool ecosystem. So with those specific services that I just showed you, you can create those scenarios. Another benefit that is always good to mention when using AWS is that you can pay as you go. So you don't need to pay lots of money if you're a small company right now, but you need a solution like this. So you can pay definitely as you go and with the services you're using. Again, the benefit of low TCO, and also that we have different marketplace applications, so we can connect with different data sources. And this is pretty much everything we prepared for you all. I don't know, Gus, Corey, if you want to add anything else.
Sure. Thank you, Laura and Gus. That was a great presentation and demonstration of the use case. It's amazing how a tool like AWS can take something as complex as data that can be different, no matter what company you're looking at, right, and simplify it that much. You can see from the demo how much time and just lack of stress reduction, I guess, if you want to put it that way, that must gain for companies. So that was great. But next, if you have some questions, we'd love to chat with you. In the comment section in the sidebar, you will see a link to a Zoom meeting. Gustavo, Laura, and I will be in there to answer whatever questions you might have. If you can't make it and you have another meeting, we will publish a recording of this webinar, and we can follow up and schedule another time to answer whatever questions you might have. But thank you again for everybody that joined today, and we look forward to chatting with you in Zoom. See you in a minute.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you there.
Bye-bye.
Bye.